Romans 13 exposed. Should Christians always obey the government? Have you ever read Romans 13:1? Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. For there is no power but of God, the powers that be are ordained of God, and wondered. Does this mean Christians must obey the government no matter what? This single verse has sparked centuries of debate, from church pulpits to political platforms, from kings to revolutionaries. Today, we are diving deep into this controversial scripture to ask, does God demand blind obedience to authority, or is there room for righteous resistance? To understand Romans 13, we need to step back into history. The Apostle Paul wrote these words while living under the Roman Empire. Surprisingly, this was a period of relative peace and prosperity. Roads were secure, trade flourished, and compared to other empires, life in Rome was stable. Yes, corruption and injustice existed. Local governors often abused power, and the system was far from perfect. Yet, for many ordinary citizens, the Roman government provided order. So, when Paul says be subject to the higher powers, he isn't writing in the middle of civil war or mass persecution. He's speaking to a society where the government generally maintains stability. That's a huge key to understanding his words. The literal reading now here is the problem. Some take Romans 13 as a command for absolute obedience. This interpretation has been used throughout history by kings to silence dissent, by dictators to crush protest, even by churches to keep members in line. The argument goes, if God put this leader in power, who are we to resist? To disobey the government is to disobey God. But wait, does that really match the rest of the Bible? The counter-examples. Let us think about some familiar stories. Daniel in Babylon refused to stop praying when the king's decree demanded it. He chose God over government. The Hebrew midwives in Exodus defied Pharaoh's order to kill Hebrew babies, and God blessed them for it. Even Peter and John in Acts boldly declared, "We must obey God rather than men," when forbidden from preaching Christ. So clearly, blind obedience to authority isn't the whole picture. The Bible itself gives us heroes who resisted unjust rulers when obedience would have meant disobedience to God. The true message of Romans 13. If Romans 13 doesn't mean obey no matter what does it mean? Look closely. Paul explains that government is meant to be a minister of God for good. Its role is to uphold justice, punish evil, and protect the innocent. In other words, God established the idea of governing authority to create order in society, not to rubber stamp every corrupt action by every leader. When a government fulfills its purpose protecting the good, restraining evil, Christians should support and obey it. But when government becomes the very source of evil, that's when believers face a higher calling, loyalty to God above man. Why this matters today, this isn't just history. Even today, Christians across the world wrestle with Romans 13. Should believers obey unjust laws? Should they submit to leaders who repress, silence truth, or abuse power? Or does God sometimes call his people to stand, resist, and even suffer for righteousness' sake? Romans 13 challenges us to hold two truths in tension: respect for authority and ultimate obedience to God. It's not simple, and maybe it's not supposed to be. So, does Romans 13 command blind obedience? No, Paul's words remind us that government has a God-given role, but when rulers abuse that role, we must remember our highest allegiance is to God alone. Daniel, the midwives, Peter, and so many others teach us that resistance, when rooted in faith, can be an act of obedience. Romans 13 isn't a shield for tyranny, it is a call to live wisely under authority, always with eyes fixed on the true King, Jesus Christ. So the real question isn't just, should we obey government? But are we willing to obey God, even if it means resisting man? If this message challenged you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Christians should ever resist government authority? Let's talk about it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for more deep dives into Scripture.